Secrets. Rosie Rivera knows all too well how damaging they are. For years, a dark family secret controlled her life. And then one day, Rosie broke her silence.
Rosie Rivera is an entrepreneur, author, and television host, the youngest child of the famous musical Rivera family. Yet behind Rosie's captivating smile, she hid the pain and heartache of childhood abuse.
My father told me I was intelligent and strong and a princess. I was not a princess because princesses are not hurt.
In her latest book, God is Your Defender, Rosie candidly shares the story of her abuse and how she finally discovered the road to recovery and freedom.
Please welcome to the 700 Club, Rosie Rivera. Rosie, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You were raised in a celebrity family. You're the youngest child, daddy's little girl. Your father said you were a princess who could conquer the world. How did that make you feel when you were little?
It empowered me. I knew exactly that it was true. If my father said it, and especially because he'd walk it with me, I knew it was completely possible.
So go forward to when you were 8 years old. What happened and how did that impact you?
My sister's first husband said that he wanted to play a love game with me. And in my innocence and in my lack of knowledge, I accepted. I trusted him, and he was a family member and he had authority. So I said yes to playing the game, not knowing at all what it meant. And even a year later, I still wasn't fully aware of what was going on. I was going through sexual abuse, and I didn't realize it until I was 9.
Wow. You know, I think a lot of people, when they hear stories, people who haven't gone through molestations, wonder, why does the child not say anything? Why did you keep the molestation a secret?
There are different reasons at different ages. When it first started, I didn't understand it, and I thought it was also my fault that I had caused it. When I finally told him no, he threatened me. He threatened to kill my sister. And because of the domestic violence that I witnessed, I knew it to be true. As time passed on and he wasn't able to reach my sister anymore, the enemy had already gotten into my head to think, well, it was your fault, or they won't believe you, or just leave it in the past. It doesn't matter anymore. And all those were lies.
And we can say things like it doesn't matter anymore, but the fact is it affected your life for many years to come. How?
Yes, it affected every area of my life, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, most of all in my identity and in God's identity. It became really distorted. I didn't know who he was, and I lost myself in who I was also. At
one point, you finally decided to break your silence. Why and how did that change things?
It's incredible how a threat put me into silence, and the same person's threat also catapulted me into speaking. He was threatening my sister to take away her children, and I became afraid that he would hurt them also. By this time, I was 16, and it became essential. I had been watching my family for 8 years now on how they would react to someone else's story. And around the same time, there was a story of another young lady's sexual abuse in the church, and my family reacted by loving her, by believing her, by praying for her and giving her help and love. And I knew if my family was supporting someone else and not victim blaming, then they would possibly also help me while I helped my sister keep her children.
You talked a moment ago about the fact that the abuse actually changed your perception of God. How did you then come back into relationship with God in a way that allowed him to begin to heal this?
Well, I thank my mother for praying for me for 11 years, not only praying in silence, but always showing me and speaking to me of God's love. At 25, I was in a very abusive first marriage, physically and verbally and psychologically. And he had hurt me very deeply. And I was ready to commit suicide. I was just so tired of the pain, of the trauma, of the depression, of the post-traumatic stress disorder. I was exhausted with life, and I didn't have a relationship with God. But in my pain, I decided to maybe ask him if what my mom said about him was true. And I begged him to please take my life because I didn't want to commit suicide, but I was tired of living. Mm-hmm. And so I said, maybe you are merciful the way my mother says you are. And if you are, please take my life. And I still, that was 14, 15 years ago, but I can still feel his presence. I can still feel his love when he took me in. I thought I was hiding from him, but he knew everything. He knew about the abortion. He knew about my mistakes. He knew about all my shame. And there in the middle of the street at 2 a.m, I gave him my life. I thought I was dying physically, but what I was truly dying to the anger, to the lack of forgiveness, I was just surrendering to him. And that day I gave him my life, and I haven't turned back since.
Yeah. Well, it's so appropriate that the title of your book is God is Your Defender, because it's a message for everyone who has experienced some kind of abuse or pain so deep that you feel like you can't get over it. I think Rosie's story is just clear. Give it to God. He's got some very, very valid answers for you. The subtitle, Learning to Stand After Life Has Knocked You Down. Thank you, Rosie. It's a great book. Your story's amazing.
Thank you so much.